It was launched in 1972. More than 50 years later, it is still out there tilling soil, pulling implements, and doing heavy work on farms all around the world. The John Deere 4430 is not just an old tractor that survived the test of time. It is one of the most iconic pieces of agricultural equipment ever built, and today you're going to understand exactly why. To understand why the 4430 was so revolutionary, we need to go back a few years before its launch. In the early 1970s, agriculture was going through rapid change. Farms were getting bigger, productivity demands were increasing, and farmers were spending hours and hours inside tractor cabs every single day. The problem was that the cabs of that era were primitive. Excessive noise, constant vibration, heat in the summer and freezing cold in the winter. Working inside a tractor cab meant arriving at the end of the day completely worn out. On top of that, the engines from the previous generation could no longer keep up with the growing demands of large farming operations. Farmers needed more power, more reliability, and more comfort. And that is exactly what John Deere promised to deliver with what they called Generation 2. In 1972, John Deere introduced the world to its Generation 2 lineup, and the 4430 was the star of that launch. The first major upgrade was the engine. The 4430 came equipped with a turbocharged 6-cylinder diesel engine, producing around 125 horsepower. For the time, that was serious power packed into a general-purpose tractor. But the real revolution was not in the engine, it was in the cab. John Deere introduced the Sound-Gard cab alongside the 4430, a fully enclosed cab with acoustic insulation, air conditioning, a heater, and a suspension system that absorbed much of the vibration coming up from the ground. It sounds basic by today's standards, but in 1972, that was considered first-class comfort for someone working in the field all day. Beyond the comfort, the 4430 brought the quad-range transmission, which offered 16 forward gears and 6 reverse. That gave the operator far more control over working speed, allowing the tractor to adapt to different soil conditions and implements. The result was a tractor that got more done throughout the day, put less physical strain on the operator, and still delivered the raw power that farmers needed. On paper, the 4430 looked impressive, but it was out in the field where it proved its real worth. Farmers who ran this model consistently talk about a reliability that very few tractors of that era could match. The turbocharged engine responded well under heavy loads and lighter tasks alike, and the transmission made it easy to adapt to whatever the land demanded. The 4430 saw heavy use in large-scale operations across the United States, especially throughout the Midwest, where properties were vast and productivity expectations were sky-high. But it also made its way to Brazil and several other countries across Latin America, where it is still possible to find one running in the field today. And here is a detail that says a lot about how well this tractor was built. Decades after its launch, it is still capable of doing the exact same work it was originally designed for. That kind of longevity is not something you see often in agricultural equipment. Today, the John Deere 4430 holds a special place in the world of farming, the place reserved for classics. There is a growing community of collectors and enthusiasts who seek out, restore, and preserve these tractors. On YouTube, on Instagram, and at Vintage Machinery shows around the world, the 4430 shows up regularly, surrounded by people who grew up watching this tractor work or who simply recognize its place in agricultural history. So why does it still matter to people who actually want to use one in the field, not just collect it? 3 main reasons. First, parts availability. The 4430 was produced in large numbers over many years, which means the aftermarket is well supplied and maintenance costs are relatively low compared to modern tractors. Second, mechanical simplicity. Unlike today's tractors, which rely on computers, sensors, and complex software, the 4430 is a machine that an experienced mechanic can diagnose and fix with their own hands. In areas where specialized technical support is hard to come by, that matters enormously. And third, the cost of ownership. A well-maintained 4430 can be purchased for a fraction of the price of a comparable modern tractor, while still delivering a solid portion of the same working capability. What makes a piece of equipment become an icon? It is not just the technology, it is not just the performance, it is the combination of showing up at the right moment, solving a real problem in an efficient way, and building a reputation so strong that it carries across generations. The John Deere 4430 did exactly that. It arrived at a time when farmers needed more. It delivered more than expected, and it was built so well that it is still out there decades later, refusing to retire. If you have ever worked with a 4430, know someone who owns one, or are simply a fan of this green and yellow classic, drop a comment below. We would love to hear your story with this tractor. If this video was worth your time, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next one.